In the latest escalation of violence in Gaza, an Israeli airstrike hit a crowded tent camp in Mawasi, a designated humanitarian zone housing Palestinians displaced by the ongoing war. The civil defense, operating under Hamas's authority, said first responders had recovered 40 bodies from the site and were continuing to search for survivors. The scene was chaotic as residents, using garden tools and their bare hands, dug through the sand and rubble in the pre-dawn hours. The Israeli military claimed responsibility for the strike, stating that it had been aimed at Hamas militants who were using a command and control center in the area. Israel added that it had employed precise munitions, aerial surveillance, and other means to minimize civilian casualties. Israel has maintained throughout the 11-month war, triggered by Hamas's October 7th attack, that it seeks to avoid civilian casualties. It has blamed Hamas for civilian deaths, accusing the group of operating in residential areas and using tunnels, rocket launchers, and other military infrastructure close to homes, schools, and mosques. However, Hamas refuted Israel's claim, insisting that no militants were present in the bombed camp. Meanwhile, in a video released by his office, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu affirmed that he is doing everything to return hostages and win the Gaza war.
I hear the cry of the families of the hostages. I hear the cry of the families who have lost what is most dear to them. My wife and I go to heartbreaking meetings that just break our hearts to pieces. I hear, I listen, I don't judge either, and I'm doing everything to return the hostages and to win the war.
His statement, made at a time when at least 40 people have been killed in Gaza, reveals the depth of his intentions and his willingness to do whatever it takes, even at the cost of innocent lives. The war has displaced approximately 90% of Gaza's 2.3 million residents, many of whom have been forced to flee multiple times. Mawasi, which has become a sprawling, overcrowded line of tent camps along the coast, has borne the brunt of Israel's evacuation orders. Despite being designated as a humanitarian zone, Mawasi has been periodically targeted by Israeli strikes. Gaza's health ministry estimates that more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed since the war began, though it does not distinguish between fighters and civilians in its figures. Meanwhile, Israel continues to point to Hamas's October attack, which left 1,200 people dead, mostly civilians. Hamas also abducted 250 individuals, of whom around 100 remain in captivity.
رغم وعورة المكان